Most of the suffering you experience in life comes from caring too much. You care too much about what other people think of you, about your work. You don't want to hurt others, disagree with them, seem like an idiot, or what personally affects me the most, you don't want to inconvenience anyone. The problem is that this leads to a life filled with unhappiness. I know everyone has this fantasy that you can just flip the switch and stop caring about what anyone thinks of you, be immune to all opinions, and have unshakable confidence. That any hateful comment hits your chest and shatters, like a bullet bouncing off Superman. But contrary to what people want to believe or try to sell you, that doesn't exist. I'm making this video for you because I've spent a lot of time in the past few weeks doubting myself, feeling insecure about the content I produce here, about the quality of what I'm sharing. I've been questioning if I'm really adding value to anyone's life. When I went searching online for help to understand what was happening in my mind, I realized that most of the advice out there is unbelievably bad. That's why I made this video, so you don't have to rely on the generic advice I was finding. Here, I'll show you a real way to understand why you care so much about what others think, why you care so much about things that don't add value to your life overall, and how you can control this to have a healthier relationship with yourself. To start, we need to answer the big question: why do you care about what others think? The shortest answer is because you're not a psychopath. If you're at work and your colleague says, "My 7-year-old son has terminal cancer," and you respond, "Wow, that sucks. Anyway, Rubens, are we playing soccer later?" That's unthinkable. So basically, caring about what others think and about people in general is what makes you a minimally decent human being. There's a slightly more complex answer. Mammals in general need a lot of support during their development. Humans, specifically, are bad at many things. We're weak compared to other species, slow-moving. Just compare a human baby to a baby giraffe or a calf. Let's be real here between us. The calf or baby giraffe is born with more autonomy than many 30-year-old Twitter users. Because of this, since ancient times, humans have struggled to survive alone in nature. That's exactly why we equate social rejection to death itself. Being cast out of your primitive tribe almost certainly meant you'd die. But we have two things that set us apart from most animals. We have great intelligence and the ability to establish complex social relationships. I've talked before about how important social connections are for our mental and even physical health. More than that, if you're a mammal, which you obviously are, considering you're watching this video, unless you're an alien, which would be a whole different story, you're alive today because during your childhood, someone connected so deeply with you that they felt pain just from being away from you or hearing your cry. They ran to help you. Now I want to do an exercise with you. Think about the most painful experience you've ever had in your life. You probably didn't think, "That time I broke my little pinky finger." You likely thought about losing a loved one or the end of a deeply meaningful relationship. That's because social and relational pain leaves a much deeper mark on us than physical pain, like burns or broken bones. Matthew Lieberman, the author of Social, conducted fascinating research to test whether social pain is more than just a metaphor. He and his research team asked participants to lie down in MRI scanners. They believed they were playing a simple ball-tossing game with two other players. If you were part of this study, you'd control a small hand at the bottom of the screen and decide who to toss the ball to whenever it came to you. But then something interesting happened. The other two players stopped throwing the ball to you permanently. When the researchers examined the brains of the participants who had just been excluded, they observed two fascinating things. First, the same brain regions that register physical pain were more active when participants were excluded from the game compared to when they were included. Second, the more someone reported feeling hurt by being left out, the stronger the response in those brain regions. This isn't something you learn. You're literally born this way. Everyone here has witnessed a child on a bus crying over something trivial, like, "My mom only brought my green pacifier, but I wanted the blue one." Now, let's be real, mastering the art of not caring is something you have to refine throughout your life. It's essentially the core of growing up. But to achieve this, we need to understand a few key things first. Let's start with the traps our brain sets for us. The first one is cognitive distortion, which happens when you interpret the world in a slightly skewed way. A classic example of this is mind reading. Let's take a simple scenario. Imagine you arrive at work, and suddenly Kaio doesn't greet you properly. You start thinking, Oh no, what's wrong? Did I do something? Is he upset because I didn't reply to his message last night? But in reality, Kaio might have had an argument with his wife, didn't sleep well, or received bad news about his mother's health. Most of the worries you have don't exist in the external world, they only exist in your head. And typically they're not based on any real evidence, just your imagination. The second trap we can fall into is the pursuit of social validation. Don't get me wrong, we will always seek social validation to some degree. The key here, though, is that we oddly value the opinions of people we don't know or care about more than the opinions of those we love and deeply respect, like family, friends, or our significant other. For example, I'm a pharmacist. How many times have I told a friend, my dad, or my mom, take this medication, it'll help with that shoulder pain you're having? They do nothing. Then they see some post on Facebook and suddenly it's like, wow, this doctor is amazing. They prescribed this medicine and it worked. And I'm left standing there thinking, I recommended that exact medication 2 weeks ago. The reality is, you'll always seek social validation. The difference is that you can control whose validation you seek. You have the ability to decide whose opinions you genuinely care about. The third and final trap is the fantasy world. I don't know why people assume judgment is something that can be avoided, as if there's a world where no one ever judges you for anything you do. A magical place where everyone you meet is perfect, loves you unconditionally, and always agrees with everything you say or do. As if something like that actually exists. Here's the thing. Judgment is an inherent part of human existence. You may not know who's judging you or why, but they will judge you, end of story, no matter what you do. Think about this. If you do something, people will judge you for it. If you don't do that same thing, people will judge you for not doing it. And so, people get stuck in this need they've created for themselves to avoid judgment entirely. Meanwhile, they forget the most important question. What is worth being judged for? Surely there are things in your life that you care so much about that you don't give a damn what others think. That's where you need to focus your energy. The first step to not giving a damn is to establish your priorities. Here's where the wonderful, marvelous personal development and self-help industry gets it wrong. They assume they know what you want. They imagine you want to be the most productive person possible, never procrastinate, have a successful career, an imported car in the garage, a pool with your dog's name spelled out in Portuguese tiles at your mansion in Alphaville. They assume everyone in the world wants the same things. That's the problem. The first step to truly freeing yourself is figuring out what matters to you. Advancing in life doesn't mean checking off every goal on your list, reading 360 books, or buying a Mustang. It's about deciding what your definition of success is. What things are so valuable to you that you're willing to eat a crab sandwich to achieve them? Life isn't a bed of roses. You're going to struggle, swallow your pride, and deal with tough situations. But here's the thing, you have the power to decide what's worth the effort. Imagine you have a handful of coins that represent your attention and energy. You can allocate these coins to different areas of your life, but they're limited. You can't care about everything. If you try, you end up caring about nothing. So you need to prioritize. Place your coins in the areas that truly matter to you. The beauty is that when you discover what those areas are, you'll stop caring so quickly about the things that used to stress you out, but added no real value to your life. Now there are situations where this gets a little tricky. Here's an example from my life. I was at the grocery store near my house when an elderly woman started arguing with the cashier because she was short 30 cents for another sticker on her loyalty card to get a freebie at the end of the month. She was so upset. At first, it's easy to think, why is this woman making such a fuss over a sticker? But understand this, someone only gets that worked up about something so trivial when they have nothing more important in their life to focus on. That's the point I want to highlight. If you don't decide what's worth your energy, whether it's making a scene at the grocery store, enduring a tough situation, or any other trial in your life, the world will decide for you. And if you let the world decide, you'll end up consumed by things that don't matter. If you're constantly worried about why your ex changed their Instagram photo, or why Pedro from HR didn't like your last LinkedIn post, then maybe the problem isn't with those things. The real issue is that you don't have enough meaningful things in your life to focus on. By figuring this out, you'll gain something fundamental for happiness: clarity. I just want to take a moment here to point out a small trap when it comes to prioritizing. Don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to who you were in the past. There will always be someone who is more than you, more intelligent, taller, better looking, wealthier, with a better job, more traveled. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about life's inherent unfairness. One thing that can help you focus on yourself instead of others is shifting your mindset. Here I want to share a quote from Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist who survived 4 concentration camps. He has a line that always moves me whenever I read it. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. There are things in life you can't control, like how you feel in a given situation. Emotions arise suddenly, but you can control how you act, even while feeling whatever you're feeling. You can choose your actions regardless of your emotions, circumstances, or past trauma. In the same way, you have the power to control your mind and stop comparing yourself to others. This also reminds me of a quote from Marcus Aurelius in Meditations. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. That couldn't be more true. Now, when you're dealing with a problem you know you don't really care about, but you still can't escape the spiral of overthinking, I have 2 little tricks that work well for me. Put things into perspective with a thought experiment. I know this sounds harsh, but stay with me. Imagine someone you love deeply, your dad, your mom, your grandfather, or your grandmother. Now, picture getting a phone call telling you that your father has been shot in the face. How important is what you're stressing over right now in the grand scheme of your life? This works for me every time. Zoom out to the absurdity of existence. When I'm spiraling, I remind myself, I'm basically a distant cousin of a monkey with a weird thumb, riding a ball of metal hurtling through space, orbiting a giant ball of fire. And this is all happening in a galaxy that's one among trillions, in a universe that's an infinite expanse of nothingness, a nothingness that's constantly expanding. When you think about how crazy this is, you realize how absurd it is to worry about whether someone liked your Instagram post. I know that for many people, as it once was for me, this idea of imagining the vastness of the universe and how small our earthly concerns are can feel disheartening, like nothing matters. But over time, I found it liberating. Absurd things happen in life, often out of nowhere. Life is unpredictable and surprising. The best thing I've learned isn't to feel disillusioned by the idea that nothing matters, but rather to embrace the absurd, laugh at it, and focus on what truly matters to me. Now let me introduce the law of reversed effort. Throughout this video, we've talked about choosing where to direct your energy and focusing on what truly matters. The law of reversed effort addresses those moments when you have to let go to achieve success or reach a goal. The best way to understand this is to think about American Navy SEALs and their drown-proofing training. This involves tying their arms behind their backs, binding their legs and blindfolding them, then throwing them into a deep pool. They must stay afloat for 5 minutes without drowning. It sounds crazy, but there are 2 key lessons here. The harder you try, the worse your results. The secret to passing this test is to let go and relax. Instead of fighting to stay at the surface, you let yourself sink to the bottom, push off the pool floor, rise for a breath of air, and sink again. Panic is your enemy. The more you panic, the more energy and oxygen you waste. Drown-proofing forces you to suppress survival instincts, showing that rational thinking must take precedence over emotion to achieve a greater goal. These lessons aren't just about drown-proofing, they're essential for life. Some things have a direct correlation between effort and results, like responding to emails. The more you reply, the more you get done. Or driving. The longer you drive, the farther you go. Other activities follow diminishing returns, like showering. 1 shower a day is better than none. 2 showers might be better than 1, but 22 showers a day won't bring more benefits. The same applies to eating, working, gaming, or sex. But then there are activities that don't follow these patterns, like drown-proofing, meditation, trying to impress others, or seeking happiness. The law of reversed effort teaches us that, in some situations, the harder you try to improve something, the worse it gets. This is paradoxical and goes against what we're taught, that if you don't achieve something, it's because you didn't work hard enough, sacrifice enough, or push yourself enough. But that traditional mindset doesn't work for everything, especially for intangible goals like happiness, confidence, or security. The more desperately you chase happiness, the less satisfied you feel, because the pursuit itself reinforces the fact that you don't have it. The more you want to feel rich, the poorer you'll feel no matter how much money you make. The more you try to feel loved and valued, the lonelier and less appreciated you feel. As Mark Manson explains in The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck *, negativity is often the path to positivity. Most people believe they only want positive experiences in life, but in reality, accepting and tolerating negative experiences is what leads to positive ones. The more you care about something, the more stressed you become about it, and that's when overthinking and self-doubt paralyze your ability to act. Results don't come from obsessing over them or wishing for success, they come from taking action. The more you fixate on outcomes, the less likely you are to act in ways that actually lead to achieving them. So, how do you teach your brain to let go and sink when necessary, knowing that sinking is the only way to rise back to the surface? Here we return to Viktor Frankl and Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. You must let go of what's beyond your control, not out of defeat, but because you've chosen to focus on what truly matters to you. Accept that sometimes people won't like you, and that's okay, you'll keep talking to them anyway. Sometimes you won't feel confident, but you'll act regardless. Sometimes you won't feel happy, but you'll get out of bed anyway. Accept that most things you do in life will fail, and be grateful for that, because learning to navigate failure is what gives you the strength to let go when needed. Remember, you're the main character in your story. Every step, stumble, laugh, and tear is part of your journey. True strength doesn't lie in appearing invulnerable, but in having the courage to be your authentic self, knowing what truly matters to you, and acting accordingly even in the face of fear or judgment. After all, if we're going to suffer in life, let it be for something we've chosen and deem worthy of our dedication and pain. That's what gives life meaning and makes it fuller and happier. So, what are you willing to care about?